Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to another edition of MJ Everyday, the third and final of 3 videos on creatine. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about the best time to take creatine, or the most ideal time to take creatine, and then going to touch a little bit on taking creatine leading into a contest, or taking creatine pre-contest leading into a bodybuilding or a physique based show. So first things first, the best time to take creatine, or the most ideal time to take creatine. Now there's 2 ways we can kind of address this question, or address this issue, guys. On one hand, we can look at the science, we can look at the studies and mimic what's done in the studies. On the second hand, we can take a theoretical and anecdotal based approach based on what we know about how our bodies work and based on personal experience with creatine dosing and different timings of creatine dosing. So firstly, looking at the studies and the science and a lot of the studies that are done on creatine, most of them will have the subjects using creatine pre-workout. Using creatine, usually most of them are about 30 minutes to an hour before a workout, and then they go and train, and then they're tested, and that's kind of how the science is done. So if you want to mimic a lot of the studies done on creatine, you mimic the dosing that's done in the studies. So you would therefore say that, I should be taking creatine pre-workout if I want to get the effects that the studies show creatine produces. I need to mimic the dosing that was done in the studies as well. So you could say creatine pre-workout, not necessarily the best time to take it, but definitely the scientifically validated time to take creatine. Me personally, I like to take a little bit of a different approach, a little bit of a radical approach to the best time to take creatine. And it's based on a little bit of theory, and it's also based on a lot of anecdote, a lot of personal experience, and not just my personal experience, but personal experiences of a lot of the guys and girls here at MassiveJoes that have messed around with different types of different times of taking creatine. So I personally believe that the best time to take creatine, the most ideal time to take creatine, is whenever you have a insulin spike or a rapid surge in insulin. And the reason why I think that's the best time to take creatine is because we know insulin is the most anabolic hormone in the human body. We know insulin is a storage hormone, and we know that the effect of insulin is to take everything in the bloodstream and drive it into muscle cells. So if you're taking creatine and you've got creatine in your bloodstream and you then have an insulin spike, that insulin is going to take that creatine that's in the bloodstream, drive it into muscle cells where it can do what it needs to do, and that's, of course, synthesize ATP. So I like to take that approach. The question then becomes, when do we have insulin spikes, or when do we have the greatest amount of insulin release so that we can take advantage of this window of opportunity, so to speak, when we have this anabolic hormone driving everything in the bloodstream into muscle cells? And on days that you train, that's going to be post-workout with simple carbohydrates, with sugars. So on days you train, I personally think the best time to take creatine is post-workout. And if you can incorporate simple carbohydrates or simple sugars into your diet post-workout, that's going to even amplify that insulin response even more. So on days you train, I believe the best time to take creatine is post-workout with simple carbs if possible. On days you don't train, you're going to get the biggest insulin response with your first meal of the day, your breakfast meal. So on days you don't train, I personally believe the best time to take creatine is with your first meal of the day. Once again, if you can incorporate simple carbohydrates, if you can incorporate sugars into your diet, having them with your first meal of the day with simple carbohydrates on days that you don't train is going to be ideal. So that's my personal take on what I think is the best or most ideal time to take creatine, is whenever you have the greatest insulin response, to make sure that that creatine is getting from the bloodstream into muscle cells where it can do what it does, and that is, of course, synthesize ATP. Second topic for this video today, question that I have been getting a lot and have had a lot over the years, is should I stop taking creatine leading into a contest, or in the last few days of a contest prep, last week of a contest prep, in my peak week? Should I get rid of it because it causes water retention? It's going to make me look puffy on stage and, you know, make me look like I'm out of shape, so on and so forth. The one thing that you guys have to understand about creatine is the types of creatine that cause water retention, and in particular creatine monohydrate. The water retention that it causes is intracellular water retention. So it actually causes your body to pull water into cells, pull water into muscle cells, which from a bodybuilding and physique perspective is exactly what you want. What you try to eliminate in a standard peak week is subcutaneous water. So water that sits in between the cells and your skin. You want to get rid of that water and you want to draw it into cells. You want to draw it into muscle cells so it gives you that nice, tight, popping muscular look. And that's exactly what creatine does. Creatine pulls water into cells. It's intracellular water retention. It's not subcutaneous water retention. So the whole premise of cutting creatine out leading into a bodybuilding or physique-based show literally makes no sense, because by cutting creatine out, you're going to have less adenosine triphosphate, which means you're not going to be able to be training with as much weight for as many reps for as long a period of time. And when you're in a severe caloric deficit, as you will be during a peak week or leading into a bodybuilding or a physique-based show, your body's going to start breaking down muscle tissue if you're not training that muscle like you normally do. And if you cut creatine out, you're not going to be able to train those muscles like you normally do. So my personal opinion on it is no. Don't cut creatine out leading into a show. Use creatine right up until the day of a show. That's what I personally do. I do not stop taking creatine at all because there's no reason to. The water retention that it causes, if any, is the exact water retention that you want. It's intracellular, and you want all of the benefits of taking creatine in that last push leading into a bodybuilding and physique-based show, because that's really when your body's going to need it most. So that's my personal opinion on it, guys. Keep creatine in leading into a show. The best times to take it: post-workout with simple carbs on training days if you can get simple carbs. If not, post-workout on training days. On days you don't train, first thing in the morning. Once again, with simple carbs is ideal. If you can't, just first thing in the morning is fine. And guys, that's a wrap for today's episode of MJ Everyday. As always, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Turn your post notifications on, both on your mobile, your cell phone, and your desktop PC, so you don't miss a beat when it comes to the Massive Joes YouTube channel. I will catch you guys tomorrow for another edition of MJ Everyday. Until then, I'm coming to you from MassiveJoes.com. Stay massive.